Okay. How are you feeling, Radek? Should we kick off?
Yeah, let's go.
Feeling good? Feeling ready? Okay, that's great. So everyone, on behalf of PMI Branch Gdańsk, very welcome to our 9th prelection in New Trends in Project Management Conference. As always, we are thrilled that we are having you here. We can see some new faces and as well our friends that are joining us on every event. Not to keep you any longer, let me briefly guide you through our today's agenda. After welcome speech, we will move to some organizational matters. There will be brief presentation of PMI Poland and Branch Gdańsk. Our friend Judita will take some pictures of our participants because it would be great to have, you know, something to keep the memory of today's event. Afterwards, I will introduce today's topic and today's speaker. Radek will take over with his presentation. If there will be some questions on the chat, we will follow up with a Q&A session. And afterwards, we will move into closing the event. We will share what's more on the plate in Ntpm, what will be the topics that we will be touching on in the nearest future. We will present the program of our conference until end of the year, and there will be slide dedicated collection of PDU points for anyone who might be interested. Okay, few organizational matters as always. We are having this event delivered into the comfort of our homes, and anyone who is not able to switch camera on, that's okay. But anyone who is able, please do so, because it allows us to create. Thank you, Gosia. Great. Thank you, Staszek. Because it allows the speaker to have a more human factor and connection with the crowd and see your interactions and see if there's you know, what's the atmosphere, how you react. So thank you very much. Throughout Radek's presentation, please stay on mute because that's very important. We might have some sounds in the background and it will just allow us to listen to Radek in comfort. Any observations, any ideas you might have on the way we are launching this event, on the way we are, you know, inviting you and having you over here, please share with us. We are very eager to hear what we can do better, and there's always space to improve. And the best ideas come from the people that actually join the events. So it would be very valuable to hear your impressions on how we're doing the job. Regarding questions to Radek, Radek appreciates a lot of collaboration, interaction. He's more than keen for anyone to raise hand. We will allow you to speak up. We will unmute you. Feel free. This event is for all of you, all of us, and Radek is very happy to share. But as well, if you don't have that chance to ask the question, you know, straight away because you have some noises in the background, post your question in the chat, and please, guys, use this moment because we have, you know, great specialists on the topic today. Don't be shy. We will cover all the questions in a dedicated Q&A session. We are thrilled to share with you that New Trends in Project Management is being held under honorary patronage of Mayor of the City of Gdańsk. And just to quickly tell you what is PMI, let me just mute one participant. PMI Poland chapter is one organism actually, but it consists of 11 branches that are greatly collaborating and supporting one another. And what's going on in Gdańsk? In Gdańsk, we have great group of fantastic people, not only members, but as well volunteers that contribute with their own time and devotion with the goal of, you know, improving and providing benefits not only for our local community. We are not only about Ntpm conference, not only about workshops and seminars. but as well we are trying to bring smiles to children's faces that are currently in, you know, some difficult life situations. And I would like to say big thank you to everyone, to every volunteer, to every member that has contributed in any actions that are performed by PMI Branch Gdańsk. You are doing a great job, and thank you very much for spending your time and making all those things happen. Okay, let's move to the cherry on the cake. Today, working as leaders, as Scrum Masters, as Agile coaches, project managers, or you name it, we are either formal or informal change leaders. And we might say that achieving success in driving change is very often a tough cookie. One of the reasons behind that might be the lack of organizational maturity. Today we will be presented with insights of organizational maturity from Kanban perspective by RADEK. And I was willing to share with you that I had that opportunity to join one of RADEK's trainings, and it was not only very professional, it was entertaining, it was packed with so many useful information that have built completely new perspective of Kanban for myself. And I came out of that event that was only 8 hours next day to work, and I said, listen guys, I have been to a training, I have learned so many awesome things. Come and have a look, come and listen, and let's check it out if it can help us to resolve the issues that we are experiencing in our workplace. And you know, being able after 8 hours training to get into my team and explain to them things in such an easy way that they said, wow, this is great stuff, this will help us. It's amazing. So ladies and gentlemen, RADEK's company is called Lean Ninja. I would say even that I perceived RADEK like, you know, James Bond of Lean after that training. And bikes and start track fan RADEK ORSZEWSKI. Thank you very much for willing to share your expertise today with us and joining this call. And RADEK, enjoy, have fun. Everyone, if there will be any questions, please don't be shy, post them, raise your hand.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I don't want to say good afternoon because I'm not sure where you are. And these days, yeah, you can work from any place all around the world. So it would be misleading. It could be misleading. Okay. First of all, Celia, thank you very much for such nice introduction. I'm happy that you shared the story of like how many things you have learned during the very basic training, just one training day. And I think it's a good starter for the story that I have to tell you today. This is not setup. I need to tell you, we haven't agreed this with Sylvia, but she gave like a perfect, I would say, basis for the story I'm going to share with you first. So the topic of my presentation today is like looking at the organizational maturity from Kanban practices. But I want to first address that even if you don't practice Kanban, even if your organization does not have yet, let's just say, benefits of applying Kanban practices to whatever you use, could be Scrum, could be traditional project management, could be any innovative way of organizing work. I believe you're still gonna learn something about probing and discovering and understanding what is actually organizational maturity. And I believe this is something what could be helpful to Sylvia a couple of months back when she went back to the office after my training. So yeah, the first thing is like how we discover new ideas. How do we discover new tools, new things that we would like to introduce to our organizations, our teams? Well, very often it is a kind of conference. Yeah, this conference is quite unique. I wish we were all in Gdańsk, but we are in a distributed environment. which is not bad because we have this opportunity to learn new things, even if we could not travel to Gdańsk or anywhere else. So sometimes there is a person who speaks at the conference and presents something really cool, something that looks promising, something like, oh, this is what my team would benefit from. Sometimes it's a lecture, it's reading, right? It's a book that you know, someone recommends us, and we believe, oh, this what's presented here is like really amazing. Let's give it a try. There are different ways, naturally. So you could be on the online webinar like this one. Yeah, we come to this idea like, oh, yeah, let's try doing that. So what happens next is usually we go to our workplace. As it's been told, I believe many of you identify yourselves as change agents or drivers for some improvement initiatives. And we present with, well, good intention, goodwill, something that we believe could be helpful. For example, let's see if we are unhappy with the situation A, we would like to find ourselves in situation B, which we, at least for now, perceive as better environment, as better setup, and we decide to start doing X. What is X? Well, X could be anything. We very often are also encouraged to do it because, well, it worked at Google. That's a you know, not a real company, but I guess you know what I mean. Or I heard that they work this way at Awayzone. Why don't we repeat the same? Yeah, we can do it too. And we start these X's, which could be practices, and I'm going to talk about practices today. We very often fall in love with tools, right? So we see like, oh, they have this amazing software as a service tool. This is what's going to save us. Or a metric, which sounds really actionable and easy to track and powerful to use. Or a type of meeting. Yeah, we are missing this kind of feedback loop. So let's have yet another type of meeting. What unfortunately happens, and I hope that, Sylvia, in your case, it wasn't like this, but from my personal perspective, I can say, it's like we very often find that it didn't work. So like we've been at a training, we've been at a webinar, we read a book, we were at the conference, we heard experts, we heard people from really respected companies, people from companies which are definitely market leaders, and we start wondering, why it didn't work? Why I have such a gem for you, have a diamond of project management or work management, and it doesn't click, let's say it. Yeah, and I want us to stop for a moment talking about practices and think about the other part of our title. So what is the organizational maturity? Well, if we talk about maturity, we need to introduce some other terms. So the first phrase that I have for you is like, practices follow culture, right? What we do in our companies, what we the way we work is usually a kind of a derivative. It's a consequence, you would say, of what is our culture. Yeah. Okay. So does it mean that I wanted to introduce a practice and that was a wrong practice? Yes, like we shouldn't do it ever? Of course not. I mean, we know that in a complex domain, there are no straight answers and there's no obvious yes or no. I guess everyone who like to answer it depends qualifies for a coach or a consultant, and I bet we have lots of people like in here who would say it depends. Okay, and what does it depend on? So like what is the reason why we introduce a practice and we don't see it applicable, or we don't see it succeeding in a given setup, in a given organization? So in Kanban world, we don't say that there are good or bad practices, because we also, #no judgment, have no good or bad Kanbans, right? We have just inappropriate Kanban adoption. And inappropriate Kanban adoption is a result of inappropriate practice adoption. what does it mean inappropriate, right? I guess not many of us are native English speakers, so we could identify, like, understand the appropriate or inappropriate way differently. Well, maybe inappropriate to the context, to the situation at which the organization is at the moment, right? So we don't say it's a bad idea. It's not something that you should not do at all, not try at all, but maybe it's not the right moment for the organization or even an area inside of organization to really try it now. Okay, so if we say practices follow culture, and we say it is relatively easy to think about introducing inappropriate practice because we don't know what is the culture, then we should first focus on identifying the culture and identifying the culture or organizational maturity, if you like. Okay, so now it's a challenging question. What does it mean to define and measure culture? What is culture, right? Some people say, what is organization, right? There's no organization, there's just people, right? There's this bad joke that, you know, in the old times when we were in the offices, in order to try what is organization, you should open the door from the meeting room and enter a corridor and shout, hey, organization, and let's see who's turning back. Yeah, pretty much no one. Because it's a kind of, you know, abstract entity. And culture is also something what is, well, like the air. You cannot see it, but you feel when it's gone, right? When you cannot catch your breath, right? And if the culture that you're dealing with is, well, low or high, or however scale you want to use for it, it's super easy to see it like, oh, that's not the culture I would like to work at. That's not the culture I would like to find myself. And if we talk about culture, then culture follows values. Yeah, even more abstract and more higher level entity. What are values, right? We very often say, well, mission, vision, value statements, posters, or this part of the website of the company which no one actually visits, right? It's very often listed there. And we say, okay, if culture follows values and practices follow culture, then maybe we should actually focus on the values. What do we value at the company? Okay, so my definition of values, or the Kanban definition I want to present to you, and I'm happy that you will disagree, that you will have alternative definition, is that these are the things that people value and refer to. What do we value? Do we follow and refer to principles and norms? And this could be internal principles and norms, right? Of course, in many business, we have like highly regulated business. And of course, we need to follow some norms for the industry, like financial or telco or something else. But that's not related to values. What we're talking about is like justification for our actions. Yeah, values are something that basically is a justification why we acted in a way or not another. Yeah, if someone was asking for a help, did I turn my head around and walked away, or I actually cared at least to ask if I could help you? Yeah. If we say that we value collaboration, but we have personal annual performance review program, and there's nothing about team and nothing about team achieving something in our rewarding program, let's just say, maybe that's just an empty word, right? And it's not easy to identify the culture, and not easy to identify the values. But I would say this is the first thing that we should look at before we say, oh, this is what they need in order to work better, right? Why? Because sometimes the values and culture are openly, strictly contradictory to what we want to present, to want to propose to the organization. I would say if your business model is selling busyness and you will introduce Kanban as a way of, hey, let's work slower, but smarter and in a collaborative way, you may, I would say, hit an invisible wall, right? Which will only trigger some kind of pushback Yeah? Okay, so there's also another thing that we could try to look at culture and organizational maturity, which is outcomes, because outcomes are usually results. So outcomes follows practices. Yeah? Because we do X or we do Y, we achieve something. I want to pay attention that it's outcomes, not outputs, right? We know that if you type in outputs and outcomes into Google Translate, unfortunately, at least if you translate it into Polish, you're going to find the same word. And it's the languages, but by outcomes, we mean something what is tangible, ideally for our customers. So these are demonstrated results, not just numbers, not metrics, which may mean anything. Yeah, we know that these days, one of the biggest, I would say, human civilization problem is like we love metrics like you know, GDP or something like this, right? While it doesn't really translate into outcomes for the people. You may live in a country with like a huge gross product per capita, right? But it may not translate into, well, good education or societal safety or things like this. Are demonstrated results in our maybe not so philosophical or political, let's just say, landscape, but our companies, these are the benefits understood from the customer perspective. So did we kept our commitment? Did we delivered on time? Did we delivered on promise? Did we delivered something of a good quality? Do we deliver something that we can be proud of? Yeah. I wish everyone you had a job that you are proud of. I've been working in many companies, and I always come back in my mind to opportunities when I could go to a different country and see, for example, people using my product. Yeah. My product, not my product. Someone said, so that was a company product. Yeah, but I felt it was mine because I contributed to it. And that was the outcome, that someone's life was better because of producing X or Y. How effective we are. Yeah, how do we translate our energy, our money, our effort into something that is tangible for the user? These are the outcomes. And yeah, this all now sounds all blurry, so maybe you could be more precise, Radek. Yeah? I'm coming. Please stay with me, because I want you to learn how to think in practice about identifying the values and culture and outcomes and practices. So let's imagine that we are in the organization and we enter this organization as a coach, as a project manager, as a scrum master, maybe even a team member. It doesn't really matter, right? And the first thing that we see, the first thing that we hear about is like, we really appreciate our team. We, the team, yeah, we are the team. Is it good or is it bad? Well, many people would say a team culture is a great thing, right? We don't want to have a bunch of individuals who are selfishly acting just on, you know, driven by their own agenda. We would rather see the team as an entity which takes accountability, responsibility for delivering something. Okay. So from the Kanban maturity model perspective, we would call this kind of organization team focused. Yeah? Team focused is good because we already have some kind of awareness of a team, but it may translate to really weird practices or I would say motivations. So first, let's think like, what do we value in the organizations which is like mostly team focused? Yeah, well, we value collaboration. We value collaboration mostly within our team. We value transparency. Yes, we do. Yeah, we have a Kanban board, so we value transparency. We have Scrum, so we definitely value transparency because it's one of our pillars. Yeah, but this transparency could be only, I would say, limited to our team. And in team-focused organizations, you very often hear like, our team delivered. Just those from marketing team promised something unrealistic. Yeah. Or the guys from the other location, that team screwed it up. Yeah. So the team focus is a good thing, but we should be aware that team focus can internally also create some kind of friction. So what does it mean? What do we focus on, and what are we rewarded for? Again, if we are in a team-focused organization, yeah, in a team-focused organization, we care about delivering tasks given to our team. I know it's a simplification, and I hope it raises your eyebrows. It's like, I would disagree. We also care, and we are, I would say, rewarded for deliverables. Yeah, give us this feature, give us this user story, give us this new application version or application release. Yeah, yes, we do care about it, but we mostly care about it if it is within, I would say, range or power of our team. So what's next? Well, let's look at what we practice, and let's look at what is, I would say, acceptable for the team-focused organization. Yes, finally, there is a Kanban board. Yeah. So it's not a Kanban board because there are no WIP limits visible, but let's assume they are there. Yeah, it's a board. It's a board which starts with next column, right? Next is probably something what is next for us as the team. Yeah, it ends with done. Done meaning like we are done with it. Our team is done with it. So if you identify that you are in an organization which very much focuses on the teams and which rewards the teams for being great performing teams, and you would ask them, well, a kind of question, what happens to the work that you deliver? Very often what I call it is like pushing off the cliff. Yeah? So like, oh, boom, it hit the wall. Like no one's seen it, no one sees it anymore on our board, so we really don't care. Yeah? If we have such maybe poorly understood team focus, if you come and ask a question, hey, guys, girls, what about visualizing dependencies? But dependencies between us and marketing, dependencies between us and customer support, dependencies between our team and the other development team. Or if you ask, okay, we are very often blocked and we identified, we did the root cause analysis that we are blocked, but not, I would say, by our fault. I don't like the statement, but we clearly see that the root cause of being blocked is in the other team. What do we do with it? What do we do about it? Now I'm just wondering, like, do you think you would succeed with like asking these questions about, proposing to visualize dependencies or to manage seriously blockers, and you would succeed? I don't know, maybe you're lucky. I encourage you to share it in the chat. But from my perspective, it very often fails. It very often fails to challenge such teams, to ask them to visualize dependencies, because, well, they would say, we cannot do anything because it's done in the other team. And they will also avoid visualizing dependencies because in such setup, they could be the source of a dependency for another team. So of course, it's easy to say like, oh, we are dependent on team X. Yeah, but if we are causing dependency to team Y, that's inconvenient, true, right? That's something that we don't want to see in our happy family picture. Okay? So we would say, in this case, some practices like asking visualizations for visualization of dependencies or managing blockers could be something that could not theoretically or practically succeed. Okay, so is there any other type of culture that you could show us? Well, there is. So there are organizations which not only by the slogans on the website say like, oh, what we doing here, what we are here for, that's why we make so much money in the IT, is that we try to make this particular customer happy. And they've even seen this customer. That's this guy, I'm sorry for the gender bias, with the suitcase full of money and a tie. Yeah. So in organization which we enter and we keep hearing that they know who their customer is and they really care about this customer, from Kanban maturity perspective, we would call this organization customer driven. Most of the actions, if not all of the actions, are basically driven by understanding the need of the customer and trying to fulfill this need of the customer. Okay, so what would it be in terms of value? Well, in terms of values, we would say we definitely value customer awareness. We would like to know who is our customer. We don't push things off the cliff. We would like to know who is the customer, who is the user, who gets the feature. Does he like it? Does she use it, etc. We also value flow because we understand now that delivering flow in a continuous way, delivering value through continuous flow is something that our customers like. Well, what are we focused on and what are we rewarded for in such organizations? Well, usually for the whole product, not for a single feature, not for a single user story, not for a single bug fix, for the whole service that we provide, because you may have a great product, but you may have awful, I would say, the delivery of the product, yeah, like customer support and sales and whatnot. And this could compromise your whole effort. If you are aware of it, then you are rewarded for being consistent and integral with your product and services for the whole company. That's a different story. So what kind of Kanban practice we would see in this team? Well, in this team, if we talk about practices, we very often see a much wider Kanban board, much wider Kanban system. So the one before started with next. Our horizon, our event horizon, like in a black hole, was ending up with like, what is the product owner bringing next planning, right? Or like, what is the next thing that the customers are screaming about the most, yeah? Here the life cycle evolution of a ticket, yeah, starts with a need. There's a need for X or Y from the customer perspective or from our perspective to delight the customer, and we are aware of it. Yeah? If you read carefully Scrum Guide, you say, well, the product backlog should be transparent and visible and understandable, right? It's not if it's hidden. And our answer as Kanban practitioners is like, let's have a mature upstream Kanban. Yeah. So a part of the system which shows the evolution from the idea, from the need, until it's ready for deliverable and for delivery and then delivered. What do we see on the right-hand side of the board? It's not done or almost done, as we know it very often, but feedback, yeah, feedback from the customer. So we not only consider it done because it fulfills all acceptance criteria and our Scrum definition of done, or our explicit policy of done in Kanban, but we wait and we care about feedback. Is it actually used? Does it make the customer life better? Or does it even at least the customer support hotline better? Yeah, because in many businesses, we as IT deliver something and we are not even aware that there are people on the customer, customer center hotline or chat for which it's going to be a nightmare because they will need to answer many complaints, many inconvenient questions. So in this case, we would probably see Kanban, which is more end-to-end flow, right? From the point of commitment until the point of delivery, really wide. And in this case, if we would ask these two questions, okay, how about visualizing the dependencies or how about managing blockers? Such proposal of such practice would be, well, definitely, I would say, much more having more chances to success. Yeah, so here we have a blocker, and here we have this string on the board showing like, this ticket is dependent on that. So we cannot make our customer happy if we want to speed up with this. And this is blocking, or this is blocked, or we are blocking, or we are blocked by someone. Yeah? So this is important part of understanding. Now, where does it all go? Yeah. In Kanban maturity model, I will show you the tool in a moment. It's a model, remember. So it's a model, and every model is to a certain degree false, right? Mm-hmm. But some models are useful. So we understand from the Kanban maturity perspective that some organizations are absolutely oblivious. It's a tricky word. Because it means like you are not aware of your own limitations. Yeah, you are not aware of sorry for the wording, how crap your process is, or like how unpredictable are your deliverables. Yeah, your employees don't really know what is the way of working in this company. Something what is higher, yeah, so it's maybe counterintuitive because we go down, and the more down the higher maturity is like the team focused culture or team focused maturity. Yeah? This is what like we really care about delivering good stuff by our team, but this may not be enough to deliver complete service or satisfying product to our customer. Then we say, well, if customer is actually what we care about, we have a customer-driven organization. Now, some people would say, oh, that's a kind of nirvana. This is for what all companies actually exist for. I'm sorry, but no, we have we have further levels, because customer-driven organizations can be organizations which will fail economically. So like, who of you ever left a service and it's gone, it's off the market because it didn't make money? Like, I live in Wrocław. When I moved from Berlin, I really fall in love with the fact that we had a, you know, car sharing operator providing electrical cars. And I felt like, oh my, it's going to be as fun as using Drive Now in Berlin. And I used this service and it's gone. Yeah. It was very customer driven. The application was nice and the fleet of cars was nice. And they even had stickers of my favorite radio, Radio Luz, which is like the only academic radio without advertisements in Wrocław. It's like, hell, I like it. Yeah, but they are gone. Why they are gone? Because they were not fit for purpose from the company's survival perspective. Yeah, so you could have a great product, but it's not fitting the need of customers, or it's like too expensive to offer the service. So in the end, you don't meet and you're gone. Yeah? What is next is like actively hedging the risks, right? So like, we not only are reactive to what happens on the market, but we are also thinking about it, and we think about some kind of plans, some kind of solutions. For some solutions, it's just an insurance policy. For some, it's some some reaction plans. I need to say, when I prepared for this webinar here with Sylvia and Judita, these girls are risk hedging. They asked me for the presentation. They asked me for all possible, predictable fallback scenarios, right? So of course I could go sick and we wouldn't fix it, right? We wouldn't save our presentation from it. But everything what was predictable by them was basically covered. So it's a risk hedged conference, which is a compliment, well deserved. Then there are companies which are market leaders, and I want to say market leaders from a really long-term perspective. You could be a market leader in a new business niche, but you could be pushed back from this business niche by another big company which gets interested in this business niche. Yeah, like everyone is now, because you could ask about the examples, definitely InPost is a market leader in Poland in the delivery service, but that's not a model that you cannot recreate. That's not a model that you cannot basically compete at if you have, well, a lot of money, right? And finally, we have organizations, and this is a true nirvana, which are built for survival. Yeah? And in organizations which are built for survival, we have this internal innovation, we have this internal reinvention culture, when we are not only about making money, but earning money, and we are about well, what could we do next? Yeah, and we see examples of companies which went through this I would say, or reinvention phase. Right, like there's a company from Finland who produced rubber boots, and then TV sets, and then mobile sets, and now mobile networks. Right, maybe I don't know if they are greatest at it, but it's definitely a kind of example of reinventing themselves. Yeah, and they last for decades. So lots of talking, but let's go into practice. So Kanban maturity model is something that you can find publicly posted on the website, which is called kmm.plus. I will give you the link in a moment. And what you can find there are a couple of maps. And these maps are showing you how to understand and how to judge, for example, what are the benefits of a given maturity level? What are the actions? Are there more chaotic and reactionary from the management perspective, or are they logically or economically explainable and even anticipatory? Yeah. Are we talking about low trust, where like lots of command and control style is present, or are we about a high trust culture? Are we about tribalism, so us against them, not being aware of the customer, or actually altruistic and purpose driven, right? Purpose, like Daniel Pink book, yeah, stuff like that. Now it translates into even harder readable map, because this is a map of Kanban practices. Yeah, so now we could say that if we are dealing with organization which is team focused, we see, I know that you cannot read it, but that's on purpose. I want you to get interested in it and find it online and study it. Yeah. Some practices are obviously okay and acceptable for culture which is team focused, and some are definitely not, because they require a different culture, different organizational maturity. So I will show you the tool in a moment, but I would like you to learn how to use it before. So first we start with identifying culture and its maturity, yeah, which is talking about or like seeing, observing, measuring all the things that we spoke about. So what are people rewarded for? What is the language of people? Do we talk about small tasks, or do we talk about customer satisfaction? Once we do that, we can select appropriate practices for a given level, right? And this is how we can avoid two important coaching mistakes. First mistake is avoiding overreaching. Yeah. So there's this saying like, if they don't have a bread, why don't they eat a cake? Yeah. And this is, I know it's like, it's probably just like the quotation is different, but I probably you know it, right? If people are, you know, scarce of time and focus and commanded and controlled, if you come them and say, let's build a teal organization, or let's now from today introduce nonviolent communication, or let's build a upstream Kanban to have a backlog transparent, yeah, people will say like, yeah, we are not there. Yeah. We cannot get out of the office or our home office because we are overburdened and working extra hours, yeah, which are unpaid over hours. Yeah? So that's how to avoid overreaching. It doesn't mean that there are no practices for such culture, but be careful not to offer something which is like far beyond what they are capable of. The other mistake is something what has even more complicated meaning. This is what I dislike. I know it's recorded, but in Kanban we have this high level posh language, which is so hard to translate into Polish, for example. Avoid false summit plateau. Gosh, what is false summit plateau? Well, if you climb a hill, if you climb a mountain, you may find a flat surface on it. And you could say, yes, we did it. Do you do Kanban? Of course, we switch our Jira from Scrum to Kanban mode. Yeah. But do you have WIP limits? Oh no. Yeah. And if you are not aware that you are on this false summit plateau, you may not be aware there's so much more that you can reach. There's so much, you may have such a nice view if you actually climb a little bit more. Yeah. And this is when we are not ambitious enough. Yeah, when we say, yeah, we got rid of the first, I would say, problem. So why care for more? Yeah, we are safe from overburden. We are safe from working extra hours. So yeah, we know there's a customer, but who really cares? All I care is like my personal happiness. Yeah? And sorry to say it, but I see a lot of it in our industry. I'm saying our industry, meaning like, you know, Western world, rich societies, well-paid IT jobs. Yeah, it's like it's inclusive. It's not excluding, right? So once we identify, select appropriate practices, when we select and apply appropriate practices, we usually could achieve better outcomes. Yeah. so predictability, so shorter delivery time, so better quality, but also all the aspects for the people. So people are like more satisfied. There's a lower turnaround of employees in your company, right? People actually, well, despite there is a referral program, they actually refer their friends to the workplace, because it's not a BS. It's a true culture where you want to invite your people or your colleagues to work at. And if we reach this, well, we, in the end, that's not a promise. Sorry, I don't sell snake oil. I don't give fake promises. You could improve organizational maturity. If you identify that you did it, you basically close the cycle and you repeat it again. Because now, if you are in a higher culture, higher organizational maturity organization, you may select another set of appropriate practices. And again, be aware of this overreaching, but also think about how to avoid the false summit plateau. So to be, well, ambitious, I would say, in the long term. Where to find more? And this is the moment where I want to show you the application. So, oh, now you see my desktop. That was a dwarf planet Pluto. I'm so old that when I was a kid, it was still a planet. Now it's a dwarf planet. This is the first view, which you can find under this website, kmm.plus. And here you can read and here you can learn more about, well, what are the benefits dimension, what are the risk dimensions, what are the action dimensions, and scope and values and focus and trust and leadership. So you may select multiple factors, multiple dimensions, and try to identify where is your culture, yeah? Where is your maturity level? And if you click it, you can actually open a definition. So this is a kind of, clickable book, yeah, you could say. Now, there is another view. So view all posters, and there's this overwhelming practice map. Yeah, and here is, we have like, I don't know, at this moment, probably like 200 practices mapped here. So if you want to know what is appropriate and what is not, again, we zoom in and we say, oh, we are in a team-focused organization. So what can we provide? What can we ask? What we can propose for the teams to basically do, and they will probably accept it. Yeah. Let's visualize work for several individuals, yeah, by means of, for example, aggregated personal Kanban board. That's not bad, yeah. Maybe visualize the basic policies. And again, you could ask what are the basic policies, and again, it's clickable. So yeah, it's just like some kind of intent, some kind of first draft, first version, MVP, if you like, of visualizing basic policies. So we drive in a direction of consistency. It's not like if Radek does it, it's done crappy. If Sylvia does it, it's done amazing, because we have a shared basic policy, shared basic rule. And because of that, we know how to do it at least acceptable for the customer. As you can see, there's like many practices, many Kanban board designs, and they are all distributed across all practices. So visualization and WIP limits and managing flow and making policies explicit and feedback loops. And the final one, which some people is like most important. So like improving collaboratively the organization and also evolving through the experiments. So this is what you can find at the website. But there are other sources, I would say, of the secret knowledge that I'm sharing now with you. There's a book, a physical book. It's quite expensive. And if Ania Radzikowska, who is the product manager for Kanban maturity model, would be here, maybe she would, well, not be angry at me, saying like, the book is great, but it's heavy and huge, and it's a traditional book, so it's hard to have it updated on the fly. The KMM Plus service is something what provides some of the resources for free. Some are book as a service, so software where you pay some like monthly abo, and you have the full resources. You can of course find the trainings, and especially for Polish speakers, but not only, because both episodes about KMM are having interviews in English. If you know or not, for now, wow, more than 2 years, I host a podcast which is called Kanban przy kawie. And in episodes 8 and episode 24, I speak to both co-authors of Kanban Maturity Model, that's Theodora Bożewa and David Anderson. I encourage you to start maybe with a small, like, listening to, I don't know, 30-40 minutes episode of conversation with them, and then diving deeper. One thing, please remember, it's called Kanban maturity model, but it's organizational maturity model. So you don't need to do Kanban, you don't need to decide for doing Kanban practices. Of course, you can mix them with any other way of working you do, Scrum, Safe, Shape Up, whatever. What actually matters is, like, if you want to be a successful change agent, you need to learn how to avoid this overreaching, and you need to learn how to not land in this false summit plateau and say, like, oh, we are like endless happiness, landscape. Why change anything, right? There must be ambition. There must be a stressor for a change in order to ask people to do anything more than they do now. Okay, that's enough of me talking. Now it's the Q&A. You're more than welcome to ask questions. So if there's anything that you would like to ask, disagree about, I'm here for you.
Thank you very much, Radek. I knew that your presentation will be packed with great informations, and we don't have any questions on the chat because from my perspective, the way you present is very clear and understandable, but I would love to encourage everyone today on the call to take the opportunity and maybe ask questions to Radek on situations of applying those practices into, from life scenarios.
Absolutely. Feel free to give me a case.
And I can kick off with first question, so people won't be so shy.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are, as a Scrum Masters, working in a team setup, but as well we have some obligations that go outside of our team's scope. And we collaborate with our customers and so on, as well with our CEOs in our organization. And let's say, as a Scrum Master, willing and seeing the need to change things, to improve organizational maturity, what would be the golden case advice how to sell benefits coming from applying and introducing this maturity model? Because we need to get the buy-in, and when we're driving change, we have many stakeholders that we have to take into consideration. So that's tough cookie from my perspective.
Absolutely, and it's not easy. So I have couple of, I would say, hints for a person in a situation you just described. I mean, first of all, let's not talk about tools. Let's not talk about methods. Let's start talking the business language. If you want to reach out to a CEO, we know there are these bad jokes that, a young Scrum Master meets the CEO of the company in the elevator, and he or she starts talking about velocity in story points. Yeah, that's not the language that such person understands. It's like, would you be more happy if we would deliver predictably for our key customers? If you ask a question like this, I guarantee you that there's a higher chance that the CEO will stop the elevator between the floors and ask, what do you mean? And by what do you mean? Yeah, and then the alert goes off, right? And no, hopefully not this way. But we need to be then ready for the second question or like further conversation. And again, this conversation must be about money, about customer, about market niche and penetration of the market or saturation of your market, right? These are the questions that people will understand. I also don't want to sound idealistic that in every company the Scrum Master can actually meet the CEO in the elevator. I wish it to you. But I would say what actually matters is like finding allies in the middle management layer, because we see that, you know, and I've been a middle management layer, so I I want to sound I would say genuine. In many organizations, middle management layers are people who can be your allies and who can, I would say, take you for the for a meeting with the higher level, or at least deliver your message, which you understand because of understanding organizational maturity. And finding such allies is a key to actually, especially if you're like very isolated, siloed organization, this is it. Yeah. And yeah, so of course, probably I could come with some more, right? But I would say what are the key factors are, first of all, let's talk the language of interests and interests of the people that we are talking about. And second is like build some kind of alliance in the organization, because in highly siloed organizations, you may not have opportunity to just, you know, open the door and ask.
Thank you very much, Radek, for those tips. I will definitely try to use them and incorporate them anywhere I will work.
I'll tell something what's funny. Sometimes you need to, you know, bring an external coach or consultant. He's going to tell the same as you would do. I'm not selling my services now, but we know that this is what works, right? And I find myself, I want to turn it into joke, but I very often find myself working with people side to side and say like, what you're talking is something what we are trying to deliver for months. Yeah, why they don't listen? Yeah, it's really
some fresh blood on board.
Yeah.
Anyone has questions? Guys, feel free to unmute yourself, to raise hand. I can't see all of you at the same time. Any scenarios in your working place that you might ask Radek about advice or tip, or, you know, guidance, how to resolve those situations? So in the meantime, Radek, I think I have one more question. Regarding those organizations that were customer driven, because we had several types of them, and I want to try to understand slightly deeper the risks behind those types of organizations. So would you say that the risk is like, we are a bank and our customers will love us, will delight us when we will provide them hypotheca loan for property with 0% of interest, and that doesn't make any sense for existence of our company? Is that the type of organizational perspective when we think about customer-driven organization?
Well, I don't think you need to go to such extreme, because definitely if you would start giving money for free, you probably would not be profitable, right? Of course, there are big companies like, I don't know, Amazon or Google, who have so much cash flow that they can enter a market and subsidize it for years only to start monetizing later. But I don't think banks are there. What I think of first is like, really understand the customer need, because what you offer as a mortgage loan for an apartment is pretty much the same service as every other bank is providing on the market. Yeah, the differences in the you know, provision or premium can be marginal, but let's look into what is the experience of the people who actually you know, sell these products at your branches and your customers, right? So I took my mortgage, the last one I took, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and I remember one important factor, which was like, one of the Polish banks wanted me to sign a paper, like, you know, asking for a loan, and I had to physically sign every single page of it. The other one, the sales guy said, like, you know, they are all barcoded, and because of that, you need to put only one signature on one page. Yeah, which bank I liked more after leaving this meeting with the sales guy? Yeah,
that one which doesn't cost too much pain in your life and brings the solution much easier.
If I need to sign, you know, 40 A4 papers with my signature, I'm not gonna expect a great service after sales. Yeah.
Yeah. Clear. Yeah. Any questions?
Okay, so I can ask a question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radek. Thank you for the very great presentation. I really love your drawings. Myself, I do it as well, so I really enjoyed. So I have a question about the values, because you talked a lot about values, and we work quite a lot with values as well, and that's the most challenging part of the organization. Very often, organizations post the values on the internet websites, or I've seen organizations where they had pictures around the buildings, and they've got booklets, and very often they are very aspirational values. So when you actually enter this organization, they say collaboration, transparency. For me, the transparency is one of the most difficult value for Polish people, because we don't trust each other. Yeah, so that's we are in the end of the trust ladder. Only 23% of Polish people trust each other. In Scandinavia, it's 70+. Yeah, so even we are even worse than South America or Africa. Yeah, so it's a challenging for us. And my experience, it's challenging even in small teams. Transparency. So what's your experience here? What's how you see these challenges and how to overcome them? Yeah, because for people it's even worse. It's better not to have these words posted on the board and then contradicting them rather than it's really it's very frustrating for people when we have these pictures and we don't leave them.
We have this dichotomy, right? Because we have posters with how great we are, and then we have the everyday life, which is nasty, unfortunately. Thanks for the question. I think it's a valid one, absolutely. It's a great question. That's what I heard lately at Freakonomics. Like, you should refer with this question to buy yourself some time to think. So it's been a great question, Małgorzata. No, but seriously, I personally, I will share something what is not a part of Kanban maturity model, but what is my private definition, right? So like, for me, values and culture are very much interconnected. Yeah. And
values and beliefs. That's the culture. Describe our culture.
And what is my litmus test? I'm a chemist by education, so how I basically check the acidity of the environment is like what I call the organizational culture is a set of worst acceptable behaviors. So worst acceptable behaviors are basically observable at every level of organization, a team organization or management organization, on how we talk internally about customer and stuff like that. If we accept the language of I don't want to say hate, but if we accept the language of playing down the role of the customer, but in the end the customer is the one who pays for your salary, right? And what do we do with it? Do the management react to it or not? Is it acceptable? Do peers put the pressure on you? Hey, stop talking about our customers this way, because it's the end, it's their money who's paying our bills. That's just one of the examples, but it's also very often about, I would say, the team, people's behavior in the team. So like, yes, we value collaboration, but what does it actually mean? And I'm not going to give you a silver bullet like James Bott probably would do for a solution like this. But I would say, well, if we are change agents, Scrum Masters, we should stop thinking about how to do the amazing retrospective format next time, but we should have, I would say, the courage to ask this question aloud, to say, hey guys and girls, is it okay to talk about this customer so badly, even though we all make our not bad money because he succeeded 10 years ago with starting a company? Yeah, that's something I would say pose at the level of the team. And the second thing I'm going to talk about is probably much harder, because well, I'm going to rephrase, I believe, Deming, who said, well, learning is not mandatory, nor is survival. Yeah. So some of the companies, sorry to say it, do not deserve to have good employees because they have toxic culture inside. And we as employees are not the people who should, professionally work at places where we emotionally suffer. And in order to change such organization, you definitely need to have an act of leadership at the high level, right? You need to, if people don't change, you change the people. And I'm talking about people at the higher level, right? We know that many companies which were described like, I don't know, 10 years ago as examples, like Wells Fargo Bank, for example, which was a great example given in the book From Good to Great. The book was sold in hundreds of thousands of books, but like 5 or 8 years later, we figured out that employees of these banks were creating fake accounts and fake credit cards because the sales plans were forcing them basically to be, well, to breaking the law in the end. Yeah. And Wells Fargo paid a few $1 billion fine to have a settlement with the government. Yeah. Now Wells Fargo has a new phrase, reinvented 2018. I think that's their phrase. Yeah. And I'm giving you this example, right? Because what happened there was a significant change in the leadership team. Yeah, you cannot do it sometimes without it.
Thank you, Radek. That was a great answer, I would say, for a great question.
So I have one more, because I agree, yeah, if you do not deserve good people, you will not have good people. But the situation is I'm more open now to build the bridges, because we can say, okay, I'm not going to work, your culture is not what I expect, or your culture doesn't fit my values, yeah, so I'm just leaving. But my question, because my observation is that many companies, they are not ready for agile, yeah. So they do not really live agile values, yeah. So they've got and for me it's fine as long as we encourage them to go, because leadership, agile, whatever, the development, it's a journey, yeah. It's not the goal. So that's fine if we start the journey, even if we are far away from reaching the ideal culture. So how to encourage them, how to build the bridges, what kind of language to use to encourage them to start the journey, just to start. That's the challenge I'm having, because I can say, okay, I'm upset, I'm not going to talk to you because your values are not really the values I want to experience.
Well, what comes to my mind is going to be an example and a small advertisement of the podcast that I recorded with Clark Ching. That's a guy from New Zealand who promotes very much theory of constraints. And he gives a very simple example, right? So if there's a poor communication between the delivery team and business, and that's, for example, one of the first challenges that Scrum Masters have, right? How do we make these folks start talking? Then he says, well, don't think about big solutions, take evolutionary steps, take small steps. Yeah. And the first step is like, if he doesn't have time to meet with us and talk about priorities, maybe you'll write him a message on Slack or Teams. Hey, do you know, it would be much faster for us to work if you would know the answer to X. Yeah. It sounds trivial, I know, but very often we don't do this. And I'm not saying like we as agile coaches or consultants do this, but the teams don't do that because they are already checked out. They tried it and they didn't succeed, right? So like what is interesting to understand that of course this maturity model is not static in time and it's not always homogeneous across the company. You may have a big bank and you may have a private banking department. There's going to be a great culture, and you may have the mortgage loans department when you're going to have toxic culture, right? And what's next? We've all seen the Spotify model, but we know that what they described was just a model. And they openly said that a few years later in the New York office, it wasn't like that because they were hiring so many people at such a high rate that they couldn't keep the I would say culture consistent. Yeah. And where does it take us, Małgorzata or myself? It's like never waste a good crisis. So like if you have any change in the position of a product owner, if you have any significant change that you could act upon and say like, hey, now we have a product owner, why don't we start building a kind of agreement with this person? How do we work together? Yeah. And of course, we're going to hear like, we tried it with the previous one, but we cannot rely on the assumption like if the previous one was a jerk, so the next one will be too. Yeah, I'm not joking, but that's what I see very often in the teams, right? Like they tried with or without coach or a scrum master, and they are like burned and they don't want to try it again because it's energy, right? It's an effort to do it. Yeah. So of course, what we can do is like not to say like you pointed out, very good, like, oh, you don't deserve my help, or you don't deserve because of the culture, right? It's rarely the team's fault, if you like, where we are with the culture or maturity. So definitely I know environments with toxic, let's just say, culture initially, where it paid off to work with the teams and at least create a kind of local bubble. Again, evolutionary small steps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radek. Thank you, Gosia, for your questions. Anyone else, feel free to unmute yourself and ask question to Radek. As you may see, we are touching on organizational maturity practices, but we had even question regarding values and toxic environments. So, and Radek was helping us with some great tips and knowledge. So.
I hope they are all now browsing KMM Plus to find the practices.
I have one question to Radek.
Okay, yeah.
What should we do when we work in toxic environment?
It's being recorded now. I don't know, Kamil. I mean, it's.
I can help with to answer. Should we leave such environment or try to, to do it something with it, but it will probably cost a lot of our energy?
I don't think there's one easy answer to this question, because it really depends, right? You could decide to stay in a toxic environment as soon as you identify it's toxic, but still learn a lot and still help some individuals in the organization. And it's a kind of achievement anyway, right? What I believe is important in our roles, and I mean like agile coaches or scrum masters, is like not to victimize ourselves, right? We are not here to suffer for the organization, right? Even if we're paid well. And if you say this has you're really out of ammunition positively, yeah, not shooting at people, and you see there's not much that you can do in this organization, change it, yeah? Maybe someone else will join and have the energy. There's always this saying that, we become the kind of mud that we are in. And I think the worst thing that can happen is like if we stop smelling a fragrance of something after a few minutes, we could also start accepting some of the behaviors if we are long in a toxic environment like this. Yeah. So I would say that definitely a threshold or a border is like, do it as long as you have energy and as long as it doesn't what's the word to use? You don't pay a personal price for it. Yeah.
Radek.
Okay, thank you.
Kamil, thank you for your question, guys. Any more questions from anyone? Radek, I would have maybe one question rather practical. Is there any repository, any source where we could find some success stories on implementing maturity Kanban model in organizations?
Yeah.
Which would be
So Kanban maturity model is still quite new, but it's a result of successful, I would say, transformations or evolutions. And even if you go to the website I showed you, the KMM Plus, you may find here across resources. I'm scrolling down now. Some case studies. I guess now Anya will be angry with me because I don't know where is this one, but you will find it there, and
okay.
and we can also send to people, you know, yeah, here are some case studies like from Blizzard. That's quite interesting. That's the sport industry. So you will find here a few, I would say, yeah, examples where you see, okay, this is what was the situation. This was the assessment, the kind of this maturity level, right? And this is how it all went further. Yeah. So so that's the place to look at.
Thank you very much. And maybe we will inspire you, and you will dedicate one of your episodes into, you know, discussing with someone the success story behind it. Let us know.
I have secret stories from my customers that I cannot disclose yet, but I hope one day I will.
Okay, so we need to pop to Wrocław to have some beer with you, you know, without recording.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much, Radek. Any more questions? Kamil, I think you have raised your hand.
No, I wanted to claps.
Okay. Thanks, Kamil.
Okay, any more questions? All right, so I do believe that I need to steal the screen sharing from you right now, Radek, and we can move into closing our event. It was a great piece of information, as always, Radek. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
If you want to summarize your speech, when I have question one. Okay, I have one question.
Okay.
When deployment of this maturity model will be a success, will be succeeded?
Okay, so and that's important that you stopped us, Kamil, because your goal or the purpose of you in the organization as the agile coach or a scrum master could be to increase the organizational maturity level, because people will be happier, customers will be delighted, the company could be more successful financially, etc. But let's not make out of this some kind of another rabbit to chase. Yeah, it's not like oh, you cannot rest until the organization is not at the level 6 or something like this. What I would say, the success is that it can serve you as a change agent to identify where you are, to highlight to the organization their weaknesses, and hopefully take it higher. I like to compare Kanban maturity model to like prescription drugs. So you can get it only from a doctor with the right dosage. Yeah, it's not something that you can buy over the bar and start applying without understanding Kanban first. Yeah, because like that's for example, if you decide to jump on the practices, you need to understand Kanban first. If you work in the, I don't know, Scrum or safe environment, you need to, of course, know the details of the framework or scaling framework that you're using. And what we are, I would say, warning people from is like, let's not make it a goal in itself, right? So like, it's not like you're going to show it to your manager and say, I'm afraid that we are at the level 1, because that's a statement that could trigger some kind of unhealthy ambition. And the feedback could be, okay, so now your role, Kamil, is to make this organization level 3 in 6 months from now. That's not the way to go. Yeah, so I would be afraid that some people could see this as a success. No, it's not. It's a coaching tool. It's awareness tool for increasing observable outcomes and culture.
Thank you very much, Radek.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think it's the time to slowly say farewell. Thank you very much again, all of you, for joining, Radek for sharing. Judita has pasted into the chat section our feedback survey, so thank you everyone who took the opportunity to tell us what we can do better, or if it was so good that you have nothing to say. As well, there's some links to our social media if you would like to connect with us, see what's going on, what we are working on, join us, and or just simply say hello. Here's some links that will take you to our branch. And our Ntpm conference is not stopping. The next event will be held on 6th of November. It will be 4 hours duration workshops regarding non-violent communication with Małgorzata Zamorka and Barbara Mróz. So don't lose this opportunity. Sign in already today, so you will get reminders. As well, as we have mentioned, PMI Poland chapter is not only Gdańsk. There's a lot going on, not only in regards of project management, but leadership and etc. So here are some few events that will be held by our other chapters. So you're very welcome to join them as well, and benefit from the knowledge that we can take from our speakers and presenters. Okay, and here we will stay for a little bit longer. Here's the code for anyone who would like to claim PDU points. And in the chat section, I will share with you in the meantime link to RADEK's website. So you can find RADEK, you can see what RADEK is doing, you can check if Kanban maturity model training is coming soon, and you would like to meet Radek for many more hours to get to know more, not only on Kanban maturity model, but as well Lean and Kanban itself. There's plenty to see on Radek's website.
Yes, some people, the best way to reach me is write me on LinkedIn, because I answer 25 hours a day there. So.
Okay, but we will try, and we're happy to have you here.
Challenge me, yeah.
We will build that maturity with answering messages gradually. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining. We hope we will see you on our next events, and enjoy your evening. And I hope you found this event, beneficial for you, and we will be able to see you on our upcoming events.